thrilled because, number one, this is your first film with your new company with AGBO that you're producing.
That's right.
Brian Kirk's first feature.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Chad, this is his first real boots on the ground producing and not just a titular EP.
Yep.
So this is...
And first post King of Wakanda.
Yes. You know, number one, how did you guys even find time to produce this film?
High functioning ADD.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's interesting. I mean, when you're working on movies like Endgame and Infinity War, they're so all consuming that it's refreshing at times just to have a counterpoint creatively. You just keep exercising your muscle in very different ways. We have an amazing team at AGBO that we work with, and Chadwick is a great producing partner, and you know, a lot of our creative brethren who have worked with us for the last decade are on this movie. From Matt Carnahan, who's writing the script, he directed Mosul for us, which had a sort of resounding reception at Venice a couple of months back. You know, Greg Berry, the production designer, worked with us on Civil War. Henry Jackman, who did an amazing score on this movie. This is our fourth or fifth collaboration with Henry. You know, Brian Kirk is someone we've been chasing for years, so we're very familiar with his work. So this is really, you know, having grown up in a large Italian family, it's important to us to create an extended creative family.
It's one of the great things with this particular script is that, number one, it's not an action movie. It's a dramatic narrative film seen through the eyes of Chadwick's character of Andre, so that the action is really chase scenes, police chase scenes.
Right.
And it's not the chase scenes driving the narrative.
Yeah.
The narrative is driving the chase scenes. And so often in films like this, it's the other way around, where the action, a lot of people are starting with the action and trying to make the story fit that.
It's so fun to hear you describe it that way, because that is really like such a core value of ours. You know, people will ask us how we direct action scenes, and it's like there's like an action scene does not exist until you have the story behind. Like, that's what it is. It's like the action is just an extrapolation and an expansion upon what's happening to the character, what's happening to the character psychologically, emotionally, on a plot level, and that's how we design action in all of our films. But yeah, glad that it sort of plays to you that way in 21 Bridges. That's critically important.
Oh, I mean, that jumped out at me from the start. And the fact that then we get into Paul's lensing, and the fact we get some great profile and three-quarter profile of Chadwick, and you see the wheels turning. There's no exposition. You hear score, you've got a relative ECU on him, and you see the wheels turning. And you know he's processing something that everybody else is missing. And it's a real thinking film.
Yeah.
And I just think for you guys to kick off with this one, man.
Well, it's very rare to find an actor like Chadwick who can portray a character that nuanced and that internal with that quiet intensity. It's a very complicated character. You know, you're questioning the whole movie whether he has an emotional need for vengeance or whether this is truly justice. And you know, we don't answer it to the end of the film. And even then you're left with questions. And I think that, you know, why we love elevated genre like The French Connection and Justice for All and Dog Day Afternoon and Taking a Poem 1, 2, 3 growing up is because they all had social context to them. And when you left the theater, it's a great way to deliver ideas to an audience through genre because it's compulsively watchable. But when we leave the theater on a movie like this, we hope that people are asking themselves questions when they walk out the door, and that they're thinking about, you know, the themes of the film as much as they are about the action and the characters. And there's some really spectacular acting in the movie. Great execution by Brian Kirk. Incredible score. You know, great
and you bring Sienna in, who she just blew me away with American Woman. And now to see her in this. But this whole film is about moral ambiguity.
That's right.
And to watch the shift as we go to Michael, and we see how Andre's perception of, no, I don't want him dead.
Yeah.
You know, there's something, and you see everybody's perspective changing. Even, Taylor as Ray. And you guys couldn't have done better than Taylor in that role. I mean, after what we've seen from him in American Assassin, this schizo, perfect.
Yeah. And it is because, look, we don't perceive anyone in the world as truly good or truly bad.
Right.
Right? And, heroes tend to lead more towards the good and villains tend to lead more towards the bad. But everyone is a combination of both. If there's anything lacking in the world today, it's empathy. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that we listen as well as we should. Everyone has a point of view. Everyone has a motivation. Sometimes those motivations are good motivations. Sometimes they're bad motivations. The movie's truly trying to be reflective of the complexity of the world we live in, and it doesn't pretend to make a statement about who's right or wrong. It just tries to present you with the facts and allows you to ask questions at the end of the movie, and they're not easy questions.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious for you guys, how boots on the ground were you with producing this film? Because of Brian's first time feature, Chad really being on the ground as a first time, hands-on producer, and you guys in the middle of the biggest movie of all time.
Well, we fell for this movie very hard early on. There was an early draft of the script that basically introduced the concept of the film to us, and from that point, it was just so. It hit us on two levels, right? On just a simple concept level, this idea that there's a crime that is so severe, and that it would cause the lockdown of Manhattan and a manhunt in a single night. It was extremely exciting, but also the fact that at the center of it all is this character who had been wounded severely as a child, carrying that wound with him into his adulthood, into his life's mission, and sort of understanding like where was that going to take him to a place of sort of like, was he going to be able to transcend the emotional wound and sort of find a sense of justice as a police officer? Those two things, like once we sort of were circling those two things, we were fully into this movie, even though we didn't necessarily have all the time in the world to do it. So we were supervising rewrites of the screenplay. We brought Matt Carnahan on to continue with that process because of a respect for him. We picked Brian Kirk very specifically because of the work that we had seen him do, and he was somebody who was high on our list to find the right project for. And certainly Chadwick. I mean, Chadwick was, I would say, the most central building block of the entire project, because there are few actors that could make that character, give that character the proper depth that he deserves, and also the proper sort of like just the charisma that he brings to a complex character. A compromised character is so interesting and inspiring.
Mm-hmm. How involved in the casting process were you guys, knowing the weight that goes into a feature film with the right casting? It's not like a TV episode with 30 minutes long, and they're going to be in, they're going to be out, and that's it.
Yeah, no, look, the cast, we couldn't have been more thrilled with the cast we ended up with in this movie. It's an amazing, I think it's one of the strongest ensembles we've ever had the privilege to be associated with. And it's hard to get a cast like that.
And the movie required us, so we were exceedingly hands-on. I mean, we're very aggressive about the notion that we're going to put our names on something. We got to get out of bed every day and be excited about what we're doing. And we've been doing this for a long time, and we spent a lot of years producing in television. So we, it's a muscle that we've exercised for well over a decade. So we have very very strict and specific guidelines about how we approach material, because our metric for success is, are we going to get out of bed every day and be happy that we made that movie, and we love this film, and it feels like a contemporary spin on the movies that we loved as children.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, these are the kind of noir films that I love, that I would watch with my dad.
And nobody's really making anymore.
Nobody's making. You get some neo-noir kind of stuff, and then they jazz it up. But here, we get the real grit. Mm-hmm. The fact that Paul went shooting with the anamorphics just really capitalizes on that. You guys went and shot night for night for the bulk of this. Yay!
Exactly.
And, the fact that Philly still has the Mercury streetlights. Yeah. So you get that really great period look in these nighttime scenes. I mean, every stone that makes this, magical.
You have such an amazing observation of all the details. That's great. It's really cool.
I look at every film, especially yours, because I love what you do. Even with MCU, the little details that you put into everything. And I'm sure you don't remember, but at the very first press conference for Winter Soldier that we had at the Beverly Hilton, and I was sitting in the front.
That's way back, yeah.
I was in the very front row, and I asked you guys, because it was really the first time where you were doing a lot of in-camera stunt work. That always appeals to me. Action, second unit, chase scenes, I love it. And I asked you about that, and you guys were so tickled that I noticed that it was not done green screen. This was actually practically done.
That's right.
And you went into great detail about it. And I saw the smiles on your faces, and that was like, for me, I knew what was going to come in the future with your films.
Yeah.
Because that authenticity is so important to the two of you.
It's critical. We love the visceral nature of filmmaking, and it's hard. Sometimes it can be hard to capture that visceral quality when you're working on green screen, just because the elements are not there. It's hard for your operator to frame correctly. It's hard for everyone to understand what they're doing. So you have to be very well planned, and you have to have very good materials, supporting materials, so people understand exactly what it is that you want. Very different than walking out into the street, in Philadelphia or New York and pointing a camera and capturing a performance. There is something exciting about working on a film like this, where everything is being done practically, and as a departure from the work that we did with Marvel, as we said before, like genre. It's so compellingly watchable because it has that visceral nature to it. It's working with risible concepts, and there's a level of histrionics to it that make thrillers or action thrillers some of our favorite kinds of movies.
I'm curious, where do you plan on taking AGBO in terms of producing and bringing in the younger talent who want to produce, who want to direct, who haven't had that big opportunity yet? I mean, Brian, granted, Penny Dreadful, Game of Thrones, but feature film is a whole different animal. Chadwick is now getting into the producing end, and not just in name only, but it's producing and being in the film. So he's learning, the totality of the circumstance and also how to hone in. So I'm curious where I see this great mentoring in process here.
Well, I think what you're circling is what really makes AGBO special and unique, and why we started it is because it is a very well-funded studio, but it's artist-led. And so we have the unique ability to move people through a studio-type system that may not get through any other studio system, because they don't have the same kind of allies at those other places. I say there's a unique way that creative types can speak to one another, see value in each other's work, and know how to encourage it and collaborate and grow that work, and sort of find the right context for that work. So I think that is very much our process. Because look, we go back, we may have never found our way into the business had Steven Soderbergh not looked at our movie at Slamdance all those years ago, a movie that, by the way, nobody else responded to other than him, and said, "Oh, I see something special in there. I want to get together with these guys," and extend an invitation to help them make something else. Nobody else had that reaction to that movie other than Steven Soderbergh. So in the same way, there's sometimes we are going to be uniquely positioned to respond to certain people on a creative level in a way that they may not receive, like you're mentioning with Brian Kirk, for instance. So that is, I think, a core part of AGBO. But that being said, we have aspirations to make every kind of film with AGBO, from the smallest movie with the Daniels to the largest sort of pieces of entertainment that can be made. So we're sort of excited by filmmaking in all its forms, on all its levels, and AGBO is certainly chasing all versions.
At this stage of the game for you guys, now that you've got AGBO, you're in this quote-unquote mentoring position. What do you learn about yourselves when you get up every day and you're motivated because you love what you do? But what is it you still learn about yourselves as filmmakers with the position you're now in?
Well, I think that it's a great question. I think that, we love challenges, and we love not being defined by our previous work, which is why I think that we constantly are changing it up and heading in different directions. We don't want to be predictable. We don't want to be just the sum total of a sentence that someone can write about us in an article, which is they are X type of filmmakers. We're not. We've done it all. We've done comedy, we've done drama, we've done movies, we've done television, we've done commercials, we've done short films. We explore in every form of medium, and I think as new mediums start to present themselves in compelling ways, we'll explore those as well. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think the thing that defines us best is our sense of community, and that we love to foster community. We love to foster community through the work that we do, and on our sets and through our crews. And AGBO will endeavor to foster community amongst filmmakers in a way that, as the business becomes exceedingly corporatized, that, hopefully we can be a home, a quiet home for people and artists in a way that they can't get at other places.
Well, I can't wait to see what you bring in the future. You hit a home run with this one.
Thank you.
Let me tell
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.